Okay, so Mike Rounds, who has been one of the major forces in the political landscape of trying to get legislation with UAP out there. It was him and Schumer, and the UAPDA is he still are talking about that. Apparently, him and Burleson are trying to get it added back in again, and it makes sense that they're trying to add that because Matt Laszlo just put out a report basically saying that he found that information out, that they're trying to push forward yet again to see if they can put the language in there that has more transparency and whatever we might know about potential UAPs, that it becomes a little bit more public. So this is what Mike Rounds said on News Nation about what he believes that we should be revealing, if anything.
A lot of folks out there have questioned whether or not, after all these years, there was contact that we had with entities, intelligence that was not of this earth, and so forth. We just thought, rather than beating around the bush, let's just say, look, if there's any of that out there, then let's disclose it. Let's make that available, or at least collect it. And then at some point, based upon a commission's review of it, to determine any national security concerns, to be able to share that information at the appropriate time.
All right. Thank you to UAP James for clipping that particular clip out from the interview that Rounds had there with Ross Coulthart. Now, here's the issue again, and it's similar to what we've said many times over. Same players in the game saying pretty much the same thing, right? Hey, if it's out there, we need to disclose it. I mean, who doesn't feel that way? Now, me and you could be saying the exact same thing. The difference is that we aren't able to at least attempt to put disclosure inside of actual legal documentation inside of Congress, right? Rounds can do that. Now, it's not as easy for him either. You just say, well, I want to get disclosure. I want to find whatever we have out there. We got to put it in legislation and get it going. They've tried it a lot of different times to get it passed, and it was watered down, I think, in 2023. 2024 wasn't even... I know that Rep. Garcia had at one point had put a whole bunch of things in what he thinks... he wrote up a whole report of what should be coming out, and it was just shot off the board, and that's when it just wasn't... I don't even know the last time it was mentioned, minus today when Matt Laszlo said that they're trying to once again get it passed. Now, with Rounds out there talking to Ross Coulthart about it, the question is this going to be one of those big pushes as we get closer and closer to potential hearing? If a hearing happens in November, or September actually, for what they were saying, and if they're able to actually get some whistleblowers who had firsthand knowledge, and there are some big claims that seem pretty legit, and it starts to make waves, does that help push something like this forward? Because the idea of saying, look, if there's things out there, we should disclose it. I mean, yes, of course. Who's not saying that? That's not trying to hold the secrets. Everybody's saying that's the whole reason that I do this channel. It's the whole reason you guys watch stuff like this. It's because we want to say, hey, yeah, you have information like that. Let it be known. And it's great that somebody at the position of Rounds is saying that and has continued to saying that. We haven't heard as much from Schumer. Doesn't mean that he's not as interested anymore. He just doesn't talk about it as much like he used to, in the same way that Burchett has pretty much been quiet. I don't hear from him at all. Where's he been? He's off doing other things now, so he doesn't talk about this much at all. But because even with the UAPDA, it was it's between Rounds and Burleson again, who's been a major player now inside of this game. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's always a positive. It is always a positive when you have people that are taking the subject serious and that actually want to reveal information. That's always a positive. It's just the negative follows it, which is like, okay, but what is really going to be happening to make what's going to be done to make that happen. Because there's nothing new here with this particular clip that wasn't said by various other people over the last 2 years for sure, last 10 years, quietly, sure, but publicly the last 2-3 years, you're hearing a lot of this stuff a lot more from people in this position of power. So is anything going to actually happen from this? This is the part of me that is definitely the most skeptical, always, because I don't think there's a single person on this side of the fence that Rounds is on that doesn't feel, well, hey, if there's stuff out there that we know, we should disclose it. I mean, you'll hear Gallaudet will say that, Luna will say that, Moskowitz will say that, Rounds will say that, Schumer will say that. I mean, of course, that's what you're fighting for. If we have it, we should tell people. No shit, Sherlock, I guess is the answer there. So we'll see if he gets it done. I just don't know. And sometimes to me, it all syncs up with other things going on. And maybe it syncs up with the legislation that they want to get passed. And maybe it syncs up with a hearing. And maybe it syncs up with a little bit more fuel in the tank if people start talking it again in the way that they did in 2023, because it's not being talked about the way that it was, because there's a lot of other things going on in the world that mainstream is discussing. And I don't care. I mean, we talked about this on the long form podcast the other day. You can argue with me to the death, and I will never concede that mainstream media isn't important. I'm not telling you that they're genuine, and I think the majority of them are garbage. But it doesn't mean that that's not where people are getting their news. And you look at, here's a perfect example. Most people know more about that CEO having an affair at the Coldplay concert than they do about the Langley Air Force drones that they shut down the entire air base. They just shut down the entire. They still don't necessarily know what it was. Not saying it was necessarily alien or whatever it might have been. It could have been something foreign. Who knows? But it has not been discussed. They haven't talked about the drones anymore. So more people know about that CEO having an affair. It's everywhere. It's all over social media, but it's all over I saw it in news outlets and everything else too. So that's why I say it's marketing. It's marketing. That's why I always push back when people say it's not important. As long as we have, we're getting the news on the internet. It's just as good. We're getting it on channels like this. You are, but it's marketing. In the same way that a studio film, if it's marketed heavily to the mass audience, more people are going to see it. If it's marketed to a niche group of people, I'm going to do as well. But anyway, what do you think about Rounds and his comments? You down with what he's saying? Do you believe him? You think, look, this is it. He's going to make a serious move here, and this is the last straw. This is the year. Or same old, same old. Put your thoughts in there. Let me know. All right, thanks for joining me on the show today. I appreciate you. We'll be back a little later on. All right, thanks again.